I'll be moving on December 19th. So right now, I have a lot of videos planned, so I probably won't be doing it in the next week or two.
I'm sorry. I was talking about. There's a question in the comments about what quadras are. So I was about to type out an answer, but since we're here,
I'm recording. Taylor, I just started recording. Okay. Hi, welcome to Talking Famous People. Host Eric, Coach Taylor, Pucokie here. Taylor's going to talk a little bit about a quadra thing, and we'll chime in on it. Go ahead, Taylor. You got the floor.
Well, the floor is yours. This is what I said. Anyways, someone asked in the comments what quadras are, and so I was about to type a response, but I figured if you want to make a video, we can. It's a quadra is a group of 4 types that all share the same 4 cognitive functions. So my quadra beta would be ESTP, ISTP, ENFJ, and INFJ, because we all use extroverted sensing, introverted thinking, extroverted feeling, and introverted intuition in some order.
Yeah, and before the recording, Taylor and I were talking about making one, because he's an ESTP and I'm an INFJ, so we just need an ENFJ and an ISTP, so that would be really interesting to do. Would you like to explain quadras, Taylor, to people that don't know what quadras are?
More than I just did.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying. What do you mean?
Well, like in general.
I would say
like
explain the values. Explain the values.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I don't know them off my head well enough. So Alpha Quadra is Eric's Quadra. That's ENTP, INTP, ESFJ, and ISFJ.
In Myers-Briggs terms.
Yeah.
Right. And they've all got SI, NE, TI, and FE. And their quadra is the most
chatty,
naive, chatty, friendly, naive, democratic. They all work together, get along. Assume cooperation all the time.
Yeah.
And then Beta Quadra, which is what me and Pucokie are in, is a lot more competitive and
hierarchical.
Yeah, hierarchical for sure. Give me some more.
Well, they say that, which is kind of interesting about the Beta Quadra specifically, is that betas tend to look regal in some way, especially like INFJs and ENFJs. They have a regal quality about them. And I also think that so if we were thinking of alpha as a child, beta would be the teenager. And betas are very, they're known for being the most dramatic quadra. And typically people that are in the beta quadra are a lot more inclined to do something like whether it's like a physical extreme sport or to do something with acting or in the arts. So.
Or go to jail.
Yeah.
Yeah, and alphas tend to think betas are just aggressive assholes, and betas think that alphas are kind of childish and immature.
Yeah. Now, as far as Delta Quadra and Gamma Quadra, I can never remember which 4 are which. Is it the NFPs and the STJs who are Delta, or are they Gamma? Delta is NFPs.
STJs.
Okay, so Delta's NFP.
Yes, deltas are, so if we're thinking in Myers-Briggs terms, so deltas are ENFPs, INFPs, ISTJs, and ESTJs. And then gamma is INTJ, ENTJ, ISFP, ESFP.
Right, okay. So for the gamma quadra, I think of them as the most particularist quadra. That is to say, they are the least interested in meaning that is detached from themselves. And I think of gamma quadra as being, delta quadra as being like a cross between beta and alpha. Like, they're democratic, but they're not, they're not aggro.
Well, it's interesting too because the gamma quadra, they don't, if we're thinking in MBTI terms, they don't share any of the functions that the alpha quadra has. So that can be very interesting. The gamma quadra is known for being like the adults. They're known for being pretty responsible in a lot of ways and authoritative in the sense like ENTJs. It's interesting. Taylor, what would you say about gammas?
Sorry, I zoned out. Those are the STJs.
NTJs.
No, gammas are NTJs.
NTJs.
NTJs and SFPs.
Katie's that quadra.
Right. I think that they are more. I feel they're more in line with my beta quadra than alphas, and sort of an approach to life, but also much more individualistic.
Yes. I think you're right about that.
They kind of, yeah. Betas expect people to. Sorry.
That's okay.
Betas expect people to interact in accordance with the social network and the hierarchy. Gammas expect people to do their thing, and the hierarchy will take care of itself.
Yep.
Sort of feels like.
For people that are tuning in, this is being recorded, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, John, can you camera off? There's a little bit of a lag. It's not that bad on my end where it's actually recording, so it's okay. But yeah, other than that, I agree it's not ideal. But I can follow along everybody, and the cameras are sort of keeping up. I've got it kind of reduced on my screen so that my shit can handle it.
We might as well just go with it if the recording doesn't turn out well. We don't have to upload it.
It's fine. The thing is, Socionics says, as far as intertype relationships go, that the ideal match for a long-term relationship is your dual within your quadra, but the flip order of your functions. So for me, ENTP, ISFJ. For Taylor, his dual would be Pucokie's type, INFJ. So neither of you guys, however, have recently anyway been in and Taylor, you're not currently in a dual relationship. What do you think about that? Is it actually important? Should people pay attention to that, or you go with who you like?
Taylor, you can go first.
I've no idea because I've never been in one. I mean, it seems unnecessary to me. Also, I mean, it seems to have some truth, but not absolute truth, I would say.
No, Taylor, all truth must be absolute.
Well, I know that you like to give absolutes to the duels. I think it's a good indicator of compatibility. I think that that labeling it the ideal is too strong of a statement.
Okay.
I don't know that I know of any type relationship that I just don't think you can say this is ideal, because human interactions are more nuanced or more complex than that. So I have an issue with that claim itself that any interaction can be the ideal, but I do think that it's a good indicator, or that people will get along well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that, Pucokie?
I agree to an extent. I think so. For me, I personally don't. Besides, like my best friend's husband, and some ESTPs, like I probably know a lot more ESTPs than what I'm aware of, but I'm not very close to a lot of ESTPs. So that being said, there's only one ESTP that I'm even close to. And I actually could see that being an ideal relationship. And the reason why is I think they bring out the best in one another. From my experience dating an ESFP, which is my quasi-dual, I would say out of every guy I've dated, which once I break up with someone, I don't get back together with them. But out of every guy that I've dated, he's one of the guys that I actually would consider dating again. And it's hard to explain, but I just feel like I think you shouldn't necessarily go for that in the sense that I don't think you have to be with your dual, but I think that being with your dual is more ideal. But that's if, like Taylor was saying, I think there's other circumstances. So I think you would want to have the same values as the other person. If you shared the same values and you had kind of a general similarity of where you want to go in life, and even if it's different, like even if you guys are on different paths, if it's aligning, at least for me, I think that the dual could be the most ideal. But again, I don't think people should say, oh, I'm only looking for the certain type. But I definitely think there are more ideal pairings of people than, I don't know.
Well, let me talk a little bit about what you said there about bringing out the best in you, because my experience of being with the dual is one where it helps most is in the 6-7. So her polar TE requires me to hone my TE and to use it a lot, because and it's safe for me to do so because I'm using it around somebody who's not going to judge my kind of iffy TE, because hers is even worse, and so too with FI in my 7th and her 6th. Now her FI is kind of whack, because there are things to consider besides just duality for sure. One of them is attachment style. I have what's known as a secure attachment style, and Kimberly has an insecure attachment style. And basically, secure attachment style is the only healthy kind, and everything else is the result of some kind of damage, trauma in childhood or something. So Kim had kind of a rough childhood, and she's got, abandonment issues or whatever. So that makes things difficult in a relationship, because you operate with certain expectations to how the other person's going to act in response to certain things, and you're used to fully appropriate responses that are correctly identity constructing. So if I go to my parents when I'm a little kid and I'm crying, they comfort me and they don't mock me. Whereas if something like the opposite happens, then you end up fucked up, So that's an important consideration as well.
Am I avoidant? My attachment style. Isn't that?
Avoidant of being like
I don't know. I don't remember what these styles were.
Sounds right.
Oh, attachment style?
I
Well,
have a.
Yeah.
basically, how easily do you accept and give love is the question. So if Katie comes up to you and says, "I love you," and hug you, do Do you make a joke and push her away? Do you turn it into sex every time? Or are you capable of just experiencing that closeness in and of itself for a certain time? And concurrently, how willing and able are you to provide that kind of sort of unqualified affection? That's really the question in terms of attachment style. It's very easy for me to give love and to receive love. And I expect to receive love in appropriate circumstances. And when I don't, it's shocking to me.
I couldn't remember what the individual styles were.
I don't either. But yours isn't secure?
I'm a big gushing bowl of love soup.
You seem like I would have guessed you'd have a secure attachment style.
I have a little thing about duels. Like, any ENTJ, which would be my duel, that I've encountered, like, I like them, but there's not any kind of spark, I feel, with an ENTJ. It's like, oh, that's who I'm meant to be with. I get along with them very well.
ISFP.
But I wonder, like, with me and him, if we're both valuing the fact of, like, what are we, playmates?
Playmates or supervisors?
Yeah. Supervisor. We both like to have fun.
FIFE is sparky as hell. I mean, it's absolutely true that your relationship is going to be more sparky than a dual relationship. FIFE is very much that.
More spanky?
Sparky.
Spanky?
Not spanky. Maybe more spanky too.
It is a little spanky.
Have you been in a relationship? Yeah, you have with your ESFP. Was that more sparky for you, Pucokie, than your INFJ relationship?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean,
but that's a whole different kind of relationship because so they have what they're talking about is a supervisor and supervisee relationship. So I wouldn't say that's I don't know how to describe that in a relationship.
It's sparky. That's what I'm describing. It's my experience too with FI is in my supervisor, and she was INFP for me, and that was a very sparky relationship, but not sustainable.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't think I would want to. I mean, no offense to you guys, but I don't think I would want to be with an ESFJ, for example, or I wouldn't want to be with an ENTJ.
ENTJ would be the equivalent, right?
That would be my supervisor, I'm pretty sure. And then I would supervise ESFJs. I wouldn't want to be with either of those in either of those relationships, but with my relationship with the ESFP, he actually, so he's my quasi-dual. So it is a bit different. I feel like we understood each other a lot better than other guys that I've dated, but he was looking for more of he was looking more towards an INTJ. And the thing that I noticed with him is I think I just naturally became more of that logical type person around him, which was pretty comfortable for me, but also at the same time I didn't really, I don't know how to describe it. It wasn't.
Did his complete lack of TI bother you?
Yes, actually, sometimes it did. One time we talked about if time traveling, and he just didn't understand, or like at first he really didn't understand that if you went back in time and you changed things, that
they'd be different.
That it would change the future.
That's funny. Kim's here, and I want to get her thoughts a little bit in the mix on this conversation, because what we're talking about, Kim, is quadras and relationships, and she's talking about what it's like to be with your supervisor or whatever else. What's your experience been with duality, and how this relationship maybe differs from other relationships, or is the same, or other
How many
thoughts
times
on
have you asked me this question?
Well, this is for a video specifically on quadras. I normally ask it in private.
Hi, Kim.
I don't normally ask it on video. What do you think?
Hey, go step by Eric. He looks lonely. And help us out with the question. I haven't heard your answer to it.
Okay. So, what do you want me to answer specifically?
I want you to say, like, okay, what's it like being with your dual, and how does it differ from other relationships, better or worse?
Well, I don't know if it's part of the duality, but I would say it probably is the most satisfactory, and what I would have imagined for myself earlier on, the sort of attachment that I wanted. Does that make sense?
I think you mean satisfying, probably not satisfactory. But.
Well, yeah, satisfying. Like, I just never really felt like things ever clicked.
So in previous relationships,
Yeah,
when did you feel like things clicked here?
it was a while. It took a while.
Yeah, it's not instant at all in a
No.
dual relationship. I think there's flashes of it right away.
It's like we're drawn together, but at the same time, it was really rough.
There's a lot of push-pull back and forth in this dual relationship. I think it's probably, I don't know if it's true of all, because Jewel, isn't that, I mean, like, Jewel has a lot of that going on with her dual.
Yeah.
Well, I personally think so. What's interesting about the dual relationship and also the conflictor relationship, and maybe even other relationships in general, but specifically with when we're talking about dual and conflictors, with your conflictor, you're typically attracted to that person at first. You typically admire your conflictor, the person that you're least compatible with, and vice versa. But with your dual, you're probably not hanging out in the same social circles, and also you would be kind of suspicious of them at first. So it would take a little bit longer. I've actually noticed this with my my friend Rachel's husband, Julian. At first, it was kind of like, even though it wasn't like said, we were kind of suspicious of one another in some way. And then when we actually started interacting with her more and more, we realized that we just kind of have this natural chemistry, especially when we were playing a game. We played Settlers of Catan, and we got very competitive with it. And then basically, since then, it's like anytime we're in the room together, we kind of feed off of each other. And Rachel also experiences that with Julian, and to a degree, because that's her quasi-dual. But she gets annoyed of things that he does that I wouldn't get annoyed of, if that makes sense.
I've never found an INFJ suspicious. Although our social circles never did overlap.
Maybe suspicious isn't the right word.
So no, my mic's off. So it's my suspicion that Kimberly's first husband was an ISTJ or maybe an INTJ, definitely polar FE. And I want her to describe a little bit about what she felt, like how that went down, why it was that relationship couldn't work out, even though on an objective level, Kimberly had everything she could want a husband to provide in terms of money and a house and all that kind of stuff. But it didn't work out because ultimately of a function disagreement. Tell us about that first marriage, Kimberly.
Well, I think that part of me meeting him early on in his sobriety it was forcing him to become more. It was forcing him to look inward, and so in the beginning of our relationship, because he was working a program and looking internally for things, it was bringing out a lot of things that were interesting to me in the beginning, and then as the relationship went on, he more detached from me. So I found in the beginning of our relationship we were attaching, but I think it was more because of his program that he was working. And then later on in our relationship, there was just a total disconnect. It just never felt a connect.
How did you feel going out into social situations with him?
Horrible, because I never knew how he was going to behave. It was just so odd.
Because he had polar FE.
Yeah, at the time I just thought he was socially inept or socially retarded or...
And that's one of the things about cognitive functions, understanding it, now you have an explanation you can use this to. And so with the neighbor Chris, too, when I moved in and when I met Kim, the neighbor Chris was a ISTJ before they moved away, and she spent a lot of her time wanting to be like, pulling her hair out, going, Chris, what's wrong with you? You need to think about this, or whatever. Just being consistently offended by his lack of FE. And then ultimately, I think when she learned about cognitive functions, she understood better that he can't help it.
Right. That they're just naturally oblivious.
That's the heater falling over. Kim was balancing it on this thing, and it just fell over. Abe and Steve, can you turn your cameras off? Because it's trouble for my processor on my computer to process all those little videos.
So yeah, I can't handle the obliviousness.
Okay. So, I mean, I think that's the risk of getting with the wrong type. Thank you, Abraham. Appreciate that.
You hurt Abe and his FEs.
All right, well...
Constantly.
Well, listen, Steve, you got to remember she's an ISFJ, which means she experiences FE experientially. It makes her squirm in ways that
it makes me want to help them.
She just can't help but want to intervene and say, "You're doing it wrong. You're being socially graceless." She does it to me too, but it makes me more socially graceful because I actually do want to be better at that.
Does that help you be more socially graceful in the situation?
Not in the moment, but overall, in graduated steps. I'll make a mistake. We'll have a big fight about it, and then I'll admit she was right finally, and then I'll grow from it.
That made me smile.
I'm glad to hear it, Abraham. Abraham's an ESFJ, and he's with his dual, and they seem to be doing fine despite the impossibility of the situation.
Well, really, you should ask Abe how much he believes our relation. Like when he knew you before your relationship with me, and he knows you now. Abe, do you notice a bit of a difference in Eric?
How much damage have I sustained from Kimberly, Abe?
Right.
Well, I've known Eric for a little
Longer
over
than
2
me.
years now, and I'd like to say that the impacts Kimberly has had on Eric's life are so evident that they're evident in his character, in how he holds himself, and how he dresses. And I mean, I think that Eric is just in general looks more healthy now. I don't know if he's taking more drugs. Really doesn't matter because the SI benefits are there. If that's what you want to call them. I don't know if that's what you call them.
A mainline in love. A mainline in love, Abraham.
Yes.
Well, thanks, Abraham.
Really, though,
Glad to hear that.
I haven't seen Eric as like ass wild on here as he was like in his garage.
Yeah, I used to be a little
Not
bit
having
more
like,
untethered.
and shit.
She definitely has a tethering impact on me because the SI really helps me to try to bring the time frame of my life down into more like days and less like
you're
like
way
ideas.
more grounded.
Yeah, I'm a lot more grounded. I go to bed every night now. Almost every night.
And you take a bath every day, and you eat every day, and all the things that you didn't
A
used to.
bath.
Yeah,
And it sounds like she's your supervisor.
she's my SI. She's my SI caregiver.
Baby relationship.
But we're in a dual relationship. You're the other's caregiver in certain areas.